First, I'd like to offer my deepest condolences to the family of Breonna Taylor. I am so sorry for your loss in this tragic incident, and I hope that you are able to see justice served on behalf of your loved one, truly. Second, let's start with a strong black power for Judge Olu Stevens here in Kentucky. Your actions last week in the case with Darrell Walker were exemplar of what a judge's prudent discretion should represent in a court of law. So, round of applause, brother. Round of applause. It's always great when we get to see the justice system actually administer justice. So, for those who don't know, on March 13th, at or around 1 a.m., LMPD narcotics detectives entered Darrell Walker's residence in an attempt to serve a search warrant for another person, unrelated to Walker or his girlfriend, Breonna Taylor, a 26-year-old Louisville Metro EMT lying asleep next to Darrell in their bed. Upon ramming the residential door and entering the apartment, LMPD officers failed to knock or properly identify themselves as pursuant to LMPD standard operating procedure, consequently resulting in Mr. Walker opening fire on what he thought were armed robbers, hitting an officer in the leg, injuring him. Officers then returned fire, missing Darrell, but fatally wounding his girlfriend Breonna, shooting her multiple times as she slept in the bed. An attorney representing the family said that officers were actually looking for someone else, and other officers had picked that suspect up at his house in a separate raid shortly before the shooting. This was clearly a botched execution of a warrant. On March 26th, in a decision on this improper raid, Judge Stevens lowered Walker's $250,000 cash bond to home incarceration. This prompted outrage from the police union in certain parts of the LMPD, so much so that they attempted to admonish Judge Stevens in an open and formal letter this past weekend. In short, the letter really disrespected Judge Stevens' decision to release an innocent man with no prior criminal record to home custody while he awaits trial. Okay, let's be frank. The police union is upset because they continue to believe that the U.S. law enforcement system isn't biased, partially corrupt, and arrogant in its historically blatant and brutal acts on the public without consequence. I've always thought it funny that you have a history of stereotyping thugs, when in actuality, you are the thugs. Everyone knows the biggest gang on American soil is the police department. So, no, Judge Stevens didn't release Darrell Walker because of overpopulation in the jails. No, Judge Stevens did not release Darrell Walker because of the coronavirus quarantine safety precautions or whatever. No. It was because LMPD acted without just cause, without professional responsibility or integrity, and without their own standard operating procedures. Had Breonna been murdered by anyone except the police, the person or people responsible would have been charged with a homicide, no question. So, Darrell Walker is a victim of police misconduct. Breonna Taylor is a victim of police misconduct, brutality, and a historically general disregard for unrepresented American lives. Y'all f***ed up, and anyone with eyes can see. Well, except for Chief Conrad, because he had this to say about the situation, and I quote, "It's hard for me to see how a man accused of shooting a police officer falls into that low-risk category." Well, Chief, because he is a low risk. Before this incident, Walker's criminal record was clean outside of a driving infraction a while ago. He isn't a danger to anyone except those that put him in danger, just like any other upstanding, law-abiding American citizen. This man stood his ground, which is perfectly legal in Kentucky, when officers failed to identify themselves, failed to properly and professionally execute a warrant according to standard operating procedure, and they break and enter a non-warranted citizen's abode at robbery hours. He, like any other American, will defend his house and home. Every witness reported that police never identified themselves. One neighbor even said she woke up to the boom of the door and then gunshots when it all happened, stating the officers never announced anything. Walker's attorney even says, had my client known it was the police at the door, he would have opened it for them. He had no warrants, no excessive criminal history, nor any illegal substances of any kind to hide, end quote. And it is very important to note that officers did not find any illegal drugs or firearms in Walker's home. So, because of this unfortunate incident, one person is dead, one person was almost killed due to the reckless, unprofessional actions of these LMPD detectives. So again, Thank you, Judge Stevens, for once again demonstrating how the American justice system should fairly represent and codify all Americans and not just the in-crowd elite. I'm sure the family of Fred Hampton could appreciate such an act of true patriotism. Black Power.